Hello there and welcome to another Q&A with myself. I'm Clément Young and I'm your host. And today I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind a lot lately, something that I wanted to share because it's so practically important for relationships. So really pay attention to this. If you're having any kind of troubles in your relationship, you can't really put your finger on it, or you're dating people, you can't really understand why things aren't going right or maybe why they're going wrong, then check this out. I'm going to talk to you today about what's more important, chemistry or compatibility. Okay, this is something that I've been experiencing recently in my dating life, and it's fascinating. First, I'm going to explain both of those things and what they mean. Compatibility is when you can align your life choices and your values with the person that you're getting involved with. So let's say, for example, you're family oriented. You really appreciate family life. If you meet someone who couldn't care less about family, then you're in trouble because that's a fundamental value. That's a way of life for you. So there's no way that you can navigate that relationship together easily because you're both going in different directions. And usually what happens is people are looking for very similar people, right? Categories of people, like religious people usually date religious people. Vegans usually date vegans. And thrill seekers usually date thrill seekers. So you have to align in terms of your compatibility in order to have a long-term relationship. You don't have to if you want to have just a fling. If you want to just date someone and if it's just about the intimacy, then you're not necessarily looking for this. But if it's a long-term relationship, you must connect in terms of your values, your principles, your lifestyle choices. Chemistry is very different. Chemistry is about how you feel emotionally when you're with the other person. Do they make you feel good? Do you feel warm and fuzzy inside? Do you wait for their next call? Do you anticipate their next text message? Do you want to be with them often? Like when you spend time together, do you spend a lot of time without noticing the time pass? All of these things are chemistry. And it's something that's less tangible than the whole compatibility issue with your values because they're not very articulated. These are behaviors that are so subtle. And if they mesh with you, then that's when you get high chemistry. You get like different levels of chemistry. Now, people who have high levels of chemistry in a relationship are usually opposites. So if you're maybe a spontaneous and a chaotic person, then you're going to be drawn to someone who is orderly and organized because you're complementing your emotional and needs, right? You are the one who's going to be the fire and they're going to be the earth. So that's something that usually happens. It doesn't always have to be that way. And I'm going to talk about how you can actually manipulate chemistry in order to make relationships more fun, fulfilling, fiery, more passionate. But I'm also going to talk about how compatibility is a lot more difficult. So what is it that makes a healthy relationship when it comes to chemistry and compatibility? Unfortunately, they don't always go hand in hand. For example, chemistry is something that we can either have or not, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have a relationship with someone. Although, if there's no chemistry and there's a lot of compatibility, it means that it's probably going to feel quite dead. It's probably going to feel quite lifeless. And a lot of couples actually end up, unfortunately, slipping into that trap of letting go of the emotional side of things in order for the stability and the convenience and the comfort to thrive. And I think that's a huge mistake. On the other hand, if you have huge chemistry and low compatibility, then it's a train wreck waiting to happen. It's a disaster. And I'll give you an example of this. In my last relationship, I basically had that kind of arrangement with someone. So we were completely explosive when it came to chemistry. We loved spending time having fun, joking, laughing, drinking. We would go out and party all the time. We would be having sex all the time. It was a constant hedonistic experience. We were both just head over heels for each other physically and emotionally, but intellectually and also from the kind of deep values and principles side of things. The compatibility just wasn't there. And that's why it didn't work out. And that's why it was so destructive, because what happened was I neglected and she neglected all of the more adult, important, long-term things that we should have been working on that aren't really emotional or hedonistic. So although the relationship felt fiery and exciting and fun and was releasing tons of dopamine, right? It was full of drama, full of arguments, full of suffering, because we intuitively know that we need to be compatible. And when we're not, and we're trying to make a relationship work, things just don't add up and things start to fall apart. And that's the reason why a high chemistry, low compatibility relationship is terrible. Now, can you do anything about that? Yes, you can. First of all, you have to strike a certain level of compatibility. Now, you might have a list of non-negotiables in a partner. I would actually say, if you don't have one, go and make one. I made one recently. It's an updated version. And basically in the list, I go through the non-negotiables and the desires or the wants. So they're different. The non-negotiables are things like someone must be truthful and honest. I don't want to be with someone who's going to lie to me. Someone must be optimistic and not complain all the time. I don't want to be bogged down by someone who is victimized. So those are non-negotiables for me because they're super important and they are all about compatibility. Whereas my wants are things like, I would like someone with a nice career. It's not super important to me. I don't mind being the one who's the breadwinner and supporting my partner financially, but it would be nice to have someone who's specializing in something and is very good at something. So those are the ways that you can come to terms with what are you willing to settle for, what do you stand for, and what are you willing to negotiate on. So let's say you find someone who satisfies that list of non-negotiables. Well, the way you feel about that person in the relationship is something you can work on from that point forward, because I'll tell you something, and many people know this already, but that kind of lust that you might feel when you have a high chemistry doesn't always last. In fact, it does run out at some point unless you're incredibly lucky, unless you're incredibly skilled when it comes to managing and reinforcing and feeding and nurturing that level of chemistry. It will die out. You'll get bored of each other. You will want your own space. You won't want to see each other anymore. The sight of each of you will... No, I'm joking, but okay, I'm not really joking, but sometimes that happens. So there are things you can do to work on it, and you should. Everybody in a relationship should be able to work on the chemistry. And here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. You pay attention. You communicate. You talk with each other. You do things like personality tests or quizzes to find out what's driving this person. What are the character traits of this person, and what are the things that you can do as a partner to meet them and mesh with them and complement them. It's all about complementing your partner. Like I said before, if you're an extrovert, then you're probably going to be attracted to introverts. There's nothing worse than two extroverts in the same room, right? There's nothing more boring than two introverts in the same room. So one of you is going to have to be more extroverted and one of you is going to have to be more introverted if you want the chemistry to be fiery. It's human nature. And there's things you can do about that. Maybe you can be more outgoing. Maybe you can be more outlandish. Maybe you can be more gregarious if you're not. If that's what your partner wants, then work on it. Communicate, talk with each other. Don't be afraid and don't feel like your pride is too much to be able to communicate this. Because it's a human need and it's fine and we can work on it. It doesn't make us any less than who we are. If we aren't already having a high chemistry with our partner, it doesn't mean we can't have it. It just means that we haven't found that combination yet. We haven't struck that balance yet. I hope that you got some value from this. This is an impromptu conversation that I wanted to have with you. And if you have any comments or if you have any requests, please reach out to us. I love doing these Q&As. I hope they help. I think they do, but let me know. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.